Yo, so I think we can get right into it then, all right? So
Let's do it.
all right, so there's a young and up and coming. Stop me if you heard this before. There's a young and up and coming welterweight.
Stop! I've heard this 1,000 times before, player.
All right, he put on a good performance. Stop me if you heard that one before. All right, so Vergil Ortiz versus Maurice Hooker. I'm just teed up like that. What are your thoughts? Who would like to go first? Y'all can hash that out. Oh, you know what? I'm cute. Go ahead, go first. Vergil Ortiz versus Maurice Hooker.
Man, Vergil Ortiz he looked good to me, man. I think he looked as good as he was supposed to. You know, I think he lived up to the hype. You know, one of the main things caught my attention. I'm not co-signing this, but I'm saying, you know, I think it will be a decent scrap. All that Terence Crawford talk, man. I think it's a little premature. But
Definitely.
You know, big shout out to the Bomac, man, and the Bomac stable, man. Everybody you got over there, man. You got Terence Crawford, you got Vergil Ortiz, you got please help me out, man.
Vergil Ortiz is over in the Reynoso camp.
Not Vergil Ortiz, Maurice
Jamel Herring.
Jamel Simplified Jamel Herring, and you know, more a bunch of other dope fighters over there, man. So but I really think he did good. You know, I can't criticize his performance. He did what he's supposed to do. He's 17 for 17 knockouts. You know, this was a big jump up in competition for him, and he did his thing. And I mean, I'm gonna let the future. You know, I'll sit back and watch this thing play out, see how it goes.
JD, what you got?
You know, I think it was an excellent performance put on by Vergil Ortiz Jr. I definitely will say that I still think that I'd like to see him take another step up or two at the welterweight division before he dives into the deep water, you know, with all this Bud, you know, talk that's been circulating. Because when you really look at his record, his welterweight record definitely is still a little bit light. One name on his resume that stands out is Mauricio Herrera. And a lot of people remember Mauricio Herrera as one who arguably should have gotten a decision over Danny Swift Garcia.
Right.
So a couple of years ago, he actually KO'd Mauricio Herrera, got him up out of there. So I think one thing that's for certain is he most definitely has punching power that is going to be a problem. Anytime that somebody carries on this type of KO streak, I don't think that their power in any way, shape, or form is a fluke. But I will say his resume continues to be light. Maurice Hooker is a step up for him, but I would like to see him kind of tiptoe up the ladder instead of jumping right in there with the big fish. Regardless of what Oscar says as far as trying to put him in there with Terence Bud Crawford and being okay with that, that would be foolish. You don't do that at this point with somebody who's just stepping into the welterweight division, no matter how great they looked in the performance. Again, with this particular fight, you could say that it probably was a little anticlimactic, you know, with the way that suddenly it was over. But previously in that 6th round, we really saw the power at work with Vergil Ortiz, the way he really put Maurice Hooker down and was pretty much saved by the bell just barely from getting put out of there in the 6th round. So even though the 7th round ended very weirdly, you know, which resulted in the fans booing, you know,
which was unfortunate because,
you know,
we me and you were talking about this, JD. We just saw that the weekend prior to the same exact thing happened and how everybody reacted. Oh, it was unfortunate, but with Maurice Hooker, I guess they thought it was faking. I mean, you know, he landed the punch that hurt himself. So you know.
And so ultimately, you know, that's kind of how I see it, you know, as far as that particular fight and going down. But overall, I'd like to see the young Vergil Ortiz Jr. take up another 1 or 2 welterweights that are kind of a step up, but not up there with those 4 horsemen that we typically talk about.
All right, so I guess y'all gonna force me to be the bad guy. It's Q kind of hinted on. It's way too much too soon. Way too much too soon. There were points. I think it was particularly in the 5th round, might have been the 4th or 5th round, where you saw Hooker get to him in a way where you could easily see him being outboxed by a guy who has a little bit more skill. He was getting, if you see, so he was getting touched a lot. He's not a fighter. And this is something that can be developed because Canelo developed this from the first time I saw him fight. And so I'm in no way putting him in a box saying he can't be one of those great welterweights. But let's be honest, he was matched up pretty well, right?
Most definitely.
He was matched up with a guy that didn't want to get into a firefight. And so when you got a guy that's naturally going to back up, and you have a fighter that's really good at coming forward, he's going to look better. So I was impressed by his resiliency just because he got hit. He was getting touched a little bit, and it seemed to affect him. If he was probably getting tested more than he ever got tested, and he was resilient. You know, he came back, bit down on his mouthpiece, but you could see at certain points where his momentum waned, and he didn't look like the same fighter. And that was early in the fight. So the question is, when you get in with that top talent like a Terence Crawford, and he takes you into that deep water, everybody knows what Terence Crawford does.
Right.
What he's been doing, he's been knocking people out, and with his ability to be touched like that by Maurice Hooker, I think Terence Crawford is way, way, way down the line. And to be honest with you, I think most of the top 5 welterweights are way, way down the line for this kid. I wouldn't want to see him ruin with all the talent he got. When he develops more head movement, I think, and be able to fight off his back foot a little bit better, I really think he'll be ready for the top talent, but not right now. So I'll let y'all go ahead and finish up on that.
Let him get out there, man. Push him out there. Hey, they talking that talk. Hey,
man, they better not. They better not.
Hey, Word is Hopkins said he could beat a rat, but he golden boy. You know what I'm saying?
That's golden boy. That's golden boy.
He said what he supposed to say, but hey, get him out there. Hey, I don't mind seeing him get pushed out there.
Right, it's one of those things, man. I think what's best for his career is for him not to get in the ring at this point with the Bud Crawford, with the Spence, like you said, Jay. Ultimately, we expect that from an Oscar or Bernard, because their school of thought is put that young gun in there with that older fighter who's, a decade or so older. And even if he loses, I will say one thing I will say about Oscar, Bernard, and them over at Golden Boy, if it's for the right fight and money, they don't care about that fighter losing that early. Because if you all remember, they did the same thing with Canelo. Everybody knew that Canelo wasn't quite ready for Mayweather, but the money was there, the fight was there, so they went ahead and pushed Canelo on out there, and they knew it was going to be a loss, but they cashed in. Now, still, you could arguably say that none of that really took anything away from Canelo's career in the long run. So I can see them feeling the same way about Vergil Ortiz Jr. getting in there with one of the top dogs before they leave the division and thinking that even if he were to lose, quite possibly, it wouldn't take anything away from his career in the long run. I think that's how Oscar and Bernard are overall kind of thinking. But I agree with you all. He needs to stay away for right now, though. This actually leads into another topic we're